Let me get straight to the point, yeah? What's going on, people? My name is Humza Arshad, and today I will be reading Little Badman and the Invasion of the Killer Aunties. Can you see them? Yeah, they're pretty dangerous, really. Chapter 1. A bee named Mustafa. You've probably heard of me, right? Little Badman? No? Oh well, doesn't matter. You will do one day, and I'm gonna be big. And not like my Uncle Abdul, who ate his own body weight in samosas and ended up in hospital. I'm talking about the good kind of big. Rich, famous, respected like Jay-Z or that old white man from KFC. I was always destined to be big. Even when I was born, my mum said it was like trying to fit a nappy on a dishwasher. I call it big boned. Whatever, point is, I'm a big fish in a small pond. Like a shark in a fishbowl. Or a pit bull in a hamster cage. Sooner or later, I'm gonna explode out of there and the world is gonna know my name. Humza Khan. But you can call me Little Badman. My path to greatness wasn't always clear. Even a ninja rapper gangster like me has to start somewhere. And I started in the hood. Proper gangland territory. The Little Meadows Primary School, Eggington. To say there was a lot of gun crime would be an understatement. There was loads. Just not in Eggington. Mostly in America. I reckon it shaped me into the 12-year-old I am today. But nothing, and I mean nothing, shaped me as much as my final year at primary school. I don't know if you've ever seen any war movies about Vietnam or Iraq or the Galactic Empire, but none of that compares to what I went through in my final year of school. To call myself the greatest hero the world has ever known would be arrogant, so I won't do that. I'll leave you all to form your own opinion once you get to the end of my tale. And like so many of history's greatest conflicts, it all began with something so small. In my case, it was a bee named Mustafa. I was sitting in class next to Umer when his pencil case started to vibrate. Is it just me, or is your pencil case ringing? I asked, watching the little metal box rattle along the desk.
No, that's just my bee, replied Umer. He's always doing that.
Why you've got a bee in your pencil case, man? Let the bee go.
No way,
Umer said, trying carefully to peer inside the lid without the bee escaping.
I'm keeping him. I've never had a pet before.
A bee ain't a pet. You can't stroke a bee or teach it tricks. A bee is a bee.
Doesn't mean it can't be a pet, said Umer. My cousin had a worm named Liam.
Yeah, well, at least a worm ain't gonna sting you.
Mustafa wouldn't sting me.
Who the hell is Mustafa?
My bee,
replied Umer. You called your bee Mustafa?
Yeah, Mustafa bee.
Why?
Because I must have a bee.
I don't even know why we're friends, man. See, this is the kind of things I have to put up with. I'm not saying Umer's an idiot, but you can only watch someone put their shoes on the wrong feet so many times before you start to wonder. Still, he is my best friend. Not forever, obviously. When I'm a famous ninja rapper, I'll probably be best friends with Busta Rhymes or Dr. Dre or one of the Power Rangers. But for now, I've got to put up with Umer. Ow! Shouted Umer, slamming the pencil case shut. Did you just get stung? I asked.
No,
replied Umer, rubbing his swollen thumb.
Well, maybe.
Oh, great, I said. Now you've killed him.
Killed him?
Gasped Umer, staring at the pencil case containing his bee.
What are you talking about? I haven't touched him.
You don't have to. Once they sting you, that's it. They die.
What? I didn't know that,
cried Umer.
Why did you do it, Mustafa? Why?
Quiet down, man. Gonna get in trouble.
Oh, Mustafa, why?
Wailed Umer, tears filling his eyes. You two, came a voice from the front of the class. What's going on back there? Nothing, miss, I replied. Umer just got stung by a bee.
He's dying, miss. He's dying,
bawled Umer. Who's dying? Said Mrs. Crumble, sounding panicked.
Mustafa, replied Umer.
Who on earth is Mustafa? Asked Mrs. Crumble, arriving at the desk.
My bee. My poor dead bee.
A bee? she said, looking a little nervous and taking a step back. You sure he's dead? He's a goner, miss, I replied. Umer basically murdered him.
I didn't mean to,
wailed Umer. Okay, as long as you're certain he's dead, she said, looking relieved. I'm afraid so, miss, I replied, shaking my head. He buzzed his last buzz. Gone to the great beehive in the sky. He's making honey for 2-pack now. For goodness sake, muttered Mrs. Crumble. It's always something with you two, isn't it? Don't blame me, I replied. Blame Mr. Beekeeper here.
Hey, look,
Umer beamed, looking up from the open pencil case.
He's not dead after all.
Now, it wasn't long after that I learned some important lessons about bees. Firstly, not all bees die after they sting you. Turns out that's just honeybees. Secondly, Big Hairy Mustafa was actually a bumblebee and had no intention of dying anytime soon. And thirdly, and this one was probably most important of all, Mrs. Crumble is, and always has been, super allergic to bee stings. Like crazy, serious, life-threatening allergic... Oops. Mrs. Crumble let out a scream so loud and horrible that Wendy Wang's glasses shattered right on her face. Mrs. C began to flail her arms all around like a windmill in a hurricane, desperately trying to swat poor Mustafa. Calm down, I said. It's only a bee. But Mrs. Crumble wasn't listening. She was in a wild panic. No one in the class was laughing because none of us could decide if this was hilarious or actually a bit scary. I mean, seriously, she looked insane. She was knocking over desks, pulling posters off the walls, spinning around so fast, I even felt dizzy just watching her. And then, the inevitable happened. You can only imprison an innocent bee for so long before he cracks. And Mustafa had enough. Flying between Mrs. Crumble's windmilling fists, Mustafa scored a direct hit right on the end of her nose. Pow! You could almost hear the sting popping into that big, red, veiny target. Mrs. Crumble froze instantly. She stopped screaming, stopped swinging her arms. She just looked at the end of her nose until she went fully cross-eyed, and Mustafa looked right back at her. He wiggled his bum, gave a short victorious buzz, and then flew out the window.
Bye, Mustafa,
said Umer, waving.
I'll never forget you.
Mrs. Crumble still didn't move an inch, except for her nose, which was already growing at an alarming rate. It was like someone was inflating a balloon in there. In an instant, the swelling had spread to her cheeks, her neck, her hands. She plonked down in her chair, looking dazed. Mnag, mnag, she said, which I think roughly translates as, my tongue is swollen. Huh? I said, watching her slowly inflate. Do you reckon she's gonna burst?
I hope not, replied Umer. Maybe we should go and get some help.
I don't know. She's had a pretty good innings.
Humza!
Yeah, okay, I said, pushing my seat out. I mean, if you felt that bad about killing a bee, imagine how you're gonna feel after killing a teacher.
Humza!
cried Umer, who was starting to look a bit ill himself. Only playing, man. Come on, let's go save the day. And with that, we jumped up and ran off to look for a teacher who wasn't about to explode. When the ambulance took her away, Mrs. Crumble looked like a beach ball dressed as a woman. I couldn't help but feel like maybe I was just a tiny little bit responsible after all. I was one of the ones that assured her that Mustafa was dead. But in my defense, if there are gaps in my knowledge about bees, who could be more responsible than my own teacher? So really, when you take that into account, it was all Mrs. Crumble's fault, and I'm totally blameless. I felt much better after that. Come on, Umer, I said. Let's go shoot some more scenes for the video.
I don't know, Humza. Aren't we meant to be in lesson?
How are we gonna go to lesson when the teacher's dead?
Dead?
Said Umer, looking shocked. Or sick, I don't know. I ain't a doctor. Now, come on. If we're quick, we can film the whole chorus before lunch.
Not so fast, you two,
came a booming voice from nearby.
Uh-oh,
said Umer, swallowing so hard you could hear it. Before we could even turn around, a large, hairy hand fell on each of our shoulders.
What's this I hear about you two and Mrs. Crumble? Asked Mr. Offlebox.
Now, I don't know what your headmaster's like, but ours was big, King Kong big, like a Volvo in a tie. What you ever seen on one of those cop shows on the TV where there's a really angry sergeant? Well, ours looked like the sergeant that ate the sergeant. He had this huge moustache, like the head of a broom, that stretched and contracted like a caterpillar when he spoke. His head alone must have weighed the same as my sofa. He was not someone you wanted to get on the wrong side of. I can explain, I said as fast as I could get the words out.
No need for that, Humza, said Mr. Offlebox. The paramedics explained everything.
Uh-oh, I had a sinking feeling I was about to get it, and get it bad. And however bad Mr. Offlebox could be, it wouldn't come close to the trouble I'd be in when my mum and dad find out. No one punishes like a Pakistani parent. They take courses in it, even classes on the subject of making their kids suffer. So, at this point I figured I might just have to run away and join the circus. Or the mafia, whichever was easier to get into. And then something unexpected happened.
You boys are heroes, said Mr. Offlebox. They say that without your quick thinking, Mrs. Crumble might have well died. Well done, the pair of you.
Oh, right, I said with a smile. Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Did they explain about Mustafa?
Asked Umer, before I could elbow him in the ribs. Shut up about Mustafa, then added a little louder. What he means is, did they mention that we must have a reward for our bravery?
Well, no, they didn't, said Mr. Offlebox. But, now you mention it, I think that's a very good idea.
How about half a day off for good behaviour? I suggested.
Ha 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 ha, roared Mr. Offlebox, leaning back with his hands on his hips. Of course not. But I think I might just be able to convince the dinner ladies to give you a second helping of desserts.
Yeah, good luck with that, I replied. Those old girls are strict as. Have you even seen the healthy stuff they make us eat these days? I swear I'm turning into a rabbit.
Just you leave it with me, Humza. I know a thing or two about charming dinner ladies, he said with a wink, and turned and walked away.
I said to Umer after he'd gone. Old people shouldn't wink. I just swallowed some sick.
Still, double dessert. That's not a bad result, he replied.
Yeah, maybe we should nearly kill teachers more often.
I don't know. One's probably enough for me.
Fair enough. Come on then. Let's go film that shot. See, school is just a place I go to every day. Sort of like prison, but with worse food. My real work is making the greatest rap music video ever produced. How else am I supposed to be so famous that people fight wars over me? I'm gonna be so big that little Badman impersonator will be a valid career choice. I'm gonna be so popular that cats will learn how to speak just to ask me for selfies. I'm gonna be so rich that even my butler's butler will have a butler. And the only way to do any of that is to make myself a smash hit music video. Enter my cameraman, Umer. Now, Umer may not have a lot of media training, and he might be shooting on his dad's old Nokia from the Stone Age, and he may shake quite a lot when he's nervous, but all of that aside, he's got a pretty good eye, and more importantly, he's the only one I can get to do the job. But it shouldn't matter too much. After all, when you're pointing the camera at me, it's hard to go wrong.
Humza?
Said Umer 10 minutes later, while looking through the tiny screen on his phone.
I don't know how gangster this feels.
What do you mean?
Well, it kind of looks like you're in a toilet at a primary school.
Really? How can you tell?
Probably the little urinals. They're a bit of a giveaway.
That ain't ideal, but it's the best we're gonna do. Can you frame them out?
Maybe, but I'm trying not to show too much of the graffiti.
Why? We did that specially.
Well, it's just that it doesn't look very real. You can tell we've done it on paper and stuck it on the walls.
Of course we have. We don't want to get in trouble, do we? I said.
Yeah, no, of course. But, you know, That's the bit that's not very gangster.
I see what you're saying. Real rappers don't worry about getting detention. Okay, just show a bit of the toilets and a bit of the graffiti. People are mostly going to be looking at me anyway.
Got it,
said Umer, and he hit record. I took a deep breath and pulled the best gangster face. Basically, you just squint a little and look like you've never smiled for a photo in your life. Then I started spitting rhymes. B to the A to the D to the man. If other rappers can't, little Badman can. Straight from the hood like a rat from the drain. Rhymes so sick they're melting your brain. That was as far as I got before the door to the toilet burst open. There you are! Even with just his head peering round the door, he seemed huge. Maybe the tiny rhino was added to the illusion. It looked like the giant in the Jack and the Beanstalk had stopped by for a wee. We had nowhere to run, and that was when I spotted her. Wendy Wang, peering round the door beside the headmaster. Of course! Classic Wendy Wang. She just couldn't keep it to herself.
Wendy here says, began Mr. Offerbox, that perhaps you two aren't the heroes I took you for. Is that so?
Define heroes, I replied.
She says it was you two who got Mrs. Crumble stung in the first place. That you'd been tormenting that bee and then lied about it being deceased.
How would Wendy Wang know? She hasn't even got glasses on. That's your fault too, said Wendy Wang, before hiding a little further behind the door.
Humza, imagine you were me, continued Mr. Offerbox.
I don't know if my imagination's big enough, sir, I replied.
Shut up, boy, he muttered. Now if you were me and you received one side of a story from a top student, class president and chess team captain Wendy Wang, and a very different, contradictory story from a D student, class clown and boy voted most likely to get caught in a bear trap, Humza Khan, who would you believe?
Definitely the bear trap guy. He sounds pretty honest.
Well then, that's where you and I differ, said Mr. Offerbox with narrowing eyes. Does this mean we're not getting our extra pudding? Asked Umer. The only extra you're getting is an hour's extra detention after school.
Aw, man, that ain't fair, I said. It wasn't on purpose.
Isn't that always your excuse, Humza? Said Mr. Offerbox.
No, I've got loads of excuses. I once said a ghost broke the canteen window.
And did anyone believe you?
No.
And no one believes you now. So unless you want attention every day this week, get out of this toilet immediately and take that ridiculous graffiti with you. I'll be teaching your lessons for the rest of the day, and I'm in the mood for extra homework.
Man, Offerbox had to be the worst headmaster in the world. We used to have this nice old woman named Mrs. Prue, who was pretty easy to confuse. I barely ever got caught when she was around. Then Offerbox showed up, and suddenly we got detentions, extra homework, lines. I tell you, this ain't acceptable at a primary school. How was I meant to enjoy misbehaving if I kept getting punished for it? It was already getting dark when Umer and I got out of school. I was dragging my feet because I knew I'd been in trouble when I'd get home. My mum would ask me why I was late, and if I lied, she'd work it out, so I'd have to tell her the truth. And then she'd tell my dad, and then he'd threaten me with some weird punishment that I've never heard of before, like a 2-hour headstand or sleeping in a drawer. Umer was looking at his phone, and the screen was lighting up his face in the darkness.
He said after a while. I'm not sure this is going to work after all.
What? I asked. He turned the phone screen to show me the footage we'd shot earlier. At least that's what I think it was. A blocky brown thing was moving near some blocky white things. What the hell is this, man? I asked.
You're the blocky brown thing, said Umer, helpfully.
I figured that, but you can't even tell I'm handsome. Hell, you can't even tell I'm a human.
Well, on the plus side, at least you can't tell it's a toilet either.
You can't tell anything. This is terrible. How old is this phone?
About twice as old as us, replied Umer.
Oh man, this is never gonna work. Why can't you have a proper phone?
It's the only phone my dad will give me. Can we use yours?
You know I've only got a pager, I snapped.
What's a pager?
I showed him the little black box my dad had given me. It's like a phone that only accepts text messages. Doctors have them. I think it's 3 times as old as we are.
Does it have a video camera?
Take a wild guess.
Well then, I don't know how we're going to make your music video, Humza.
But I've got to make it, man. How else am I going to take over the world and leave all you suckers behind?
You could study hard and gain qualifications in an area you find rewarding,
suggested Umer. Yeah, or I could catch a leprechaun and make him grant me wishes. But both of these ideas are fantasies. I've got to make this video, Umer. I just got to. And that was when I saw it. We'd come to a stop outside the shops on the high street, and at first, neither of us had noticed the window display. When Umer saw me staring open-mouthed, he turned to look. Right there, in the center of the window, was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The Batsani S3000 Home Pro compact video camera. White molded plastic with sharp black outlining, optical zoom lens, 16 megapixel sensors, 3-inch fold-out LCD screen.
That'll do the job, said Umer.
That will do the job, I replied.
Really? How? It's £150.
Yeah, but it's marked down from 300.
Okay, but that's still £150 more than you've got.
Doesn't matter, I replied, staring at that twinkling lens in the display case. It's destiny, Umer. It will be mine. Oh yes, it will be mine. Hope you guys enjoy it. Little Badman, make sure you get your copy now. Yeah!